Lara Chen straightened her second-hand Valentino blazer, a lucky thrift store find, and took a deep breath before pushing through the gleaming glass doors of Elysium Fashion House. The marble lobby stretched before her like an Arctic plain, populated by impossibly thin women with razor-sharp cheekbones who didn't so much as glance in her direction. "I'm here for the junior designer position," she told the receptionist, whose immaculate French manicure tapped against the keyboard with machine-like precision. Lara Chen, the woman's perfectly shaped eyebrow arched. 13th floor, they're waiting. The elevator ride felt like ascending to judgment. Lara clutched her worn portfolio case, the leather cracking at the corners. Inside were the designs that had earned her the prestigious Parsons Scholarship, the ones that had kept her awake for countless nights as she worked double shifts at the cafe to pay rent. The doors opened directly into a conference room. 8 pairs of eyes swiveled toward her, cold, calculating, and unmistakably unimpressed. "You're late," said Victoria Harlow, Elysium's infamous creative director, not bothering to rise from her throne-like chair. At 45, Victoria was fashion royalty, her silver-streaked black bob as severe as her reputation. "I'm sorry there was." "We don't do excuses at Elysium," Victoria cut her off, extending a hand dripping with vintage Cartier. "Your portfolio." Lara handed it over, watching as Victoria flipped through her life's work with the detached interest of someone browsing a takeout menu. The room remained silent except for the occasional whisper between 2 junior executives, followed by poorly concealed snickers. "These are quaint," Victoria finally said, closing the portfolio with a definitive snap. "Very provincial, perhaps suited for a department store in the Midwest." A titter of laughter rippled through the room. "I was actually inspired by sustainable practices in traditional Asian textile," Lara began. "Sustainability?" Victoria interrupted again, her crimson lips curling. "How very 2020, we're in the business of luxury, Miss Chen, not recycling." Victoria stood, her Louboutins clicking against the marble floor as she circled Lara like a predator. "That blazer, is that a genuine Valentino?" She reached out, rubbing the fabric between her fingers. "Yes, it's from the 2018 fall collection, I know." Victoria's smile was venomous. "I rejected that design, too pedestrian." More laughter. Lara felt heat climbing her neck. "Tell me, Miss Chen," Victoria continued, returning to her seat, "what makes you think you belong at Elysium? We are the fashion house that dressed 3 first ladies and the Princess of Monaco. Our waitlist for a custom gown is 2 years. What could you possibly bring to this table?" Before Lara could answer, a young woman with a tablet rushed in and whispered something in Victoria's ear. Victoria's expression shifted momentarily. "Well, it seems HR insists we consider you." Victoria's voice dripped with disdain. "Something about diversity quotas. You can start Monday in the fabric stockroom." The room erupted in poorly disguised amusement. Lara stood frozen, humiliation burning through her veins. "Unless," Victoria added, examining her manicure, "you feel your talent deserves better placement." The challenge hung in the air. Lara clutched her portfolio tighter, remembering her father's words, "Never let them see you bleed." "I look forward to Monday," she managed, her voice steady despite the earthquake inside her chest. As she turned to leave, Victoria called after her, "Oh, and Lara, we have a dress code. That Valentino knockoff won't cut it." The elevator doors closed on the sound of their laughter, leaving Lara alone with the bitter taste of public humiliation and the strange feeling that this wasn't just a job interview, it was a declaration of war. The rain pattered against the windows of Lara's tiny Brooklyn apartment as she hung up her blazer with trembling hands. The interview played on loop in her mind, each humiliating moment cutting deeper than the last. She sank onto her second-hand couch and pulled out her phone, hesitating before dialing the familiar number. 3 rings, then a click. "Dad, hi," she said, forcing brightness into her voice. "How's Singapore?" "Busy as always, sunshine. How did the interview go?" Lara swallowed hard. Li Wei Chen had never wanted her to enter the fashion world. As the reclusive founder of Global Quantum Technologies, he'd hoped she would join the family business. But she'd been determined to make it on her own merit, without the weight of the Chen name opening doors. "It went interesting," she managed. "I got the job." "That's my girl," he said, pride evident even across oceans. "Though I still don't understand why you won't let me help. One call and you could be running their design department." You know why, Dad? Lara sighed, rubbing her temples. I need to do this myself. After saying goodbye, Lara dropped her phone and closed her eyes, memories washing over her like cold waves. 5 years earlier, she'd been Mei Zhang's star protégé at the prestigious Parsons School of Design. Mei, now Victoria Harlow's right hand at Elysium, had been more than a mentor, she'd been family. You have vision, Lara, Mei had told her once as they worked late into the night on Lara's final collection. Something raw and real, don't let this industry polish that away. Then came the MEIC Prize competition, the launching pad for young designers. Lara had poured her soul into her collection, a revolutionary approach to sustainable luxury that merged her Chinese heritage with futuristic textiles. 3 days before submission, Lara's apartment was broken into. Nothing was stolen except her designs and prototype garments. She reported it to the police, frantic, but they dismissed it as a random burglary. 1 week later, Lara sat stunned in the audience as Alison Parker, Victoria Harlow's niece, won the MEIC Prize with a collection eerily similar to Lara's stolen work. The differences were just enough to avoid outright plagiarism, but Lara knew. And when her eyes met Mei's across the crowded auditorium, she knew that Mei knew too. It's just business, Mei had whispered later, cornering Lara in the bathroom. Victoria wanted her niece to win, I didn't have a choice. You were like family to me, Lara had replied, tears streaming down her face. This industry doesn't run on family, Lara, it runs on power. Mei's expression had hardened. Your father may be a big shot in tech, but here, you're nobody. That night, Lara had called her father for the first time in years, sobbing as she recounted the betrayal. Li Wei had offered to buy the whole fashion house and fire everyone involved, but Lara had refused. I need to beat them at their own game, she'd insisted. So she changed her last name back to Chen from the Americanized Chase she'd used at school, cut all ties with her former friends, and spent 3 years building a new portfolio. No one at Elysium knew that Lara Chen was the daughter of Li Wei Chen, the billionaire tech innovator whose net worth would make Victoria Harlow's empire look like pocket change. Now, sitting in her apartment after the humiliating interview, Lara pulled out a worn sketchbook and flipped to designs she'd never shown anyone, revolutionary pieces that would make her stolen collection look amateur. She'd been saving them, waiting for the right moment. Her phone buzzed with a text from Riley, her only friend from her Parsons days who hadn't abandoned her. How'd it go? Drinks at Maeve's to celebrate. Lara stared at her reflection in the window, the New York skyline glittering beyond. Not celebrating yet, she typed back. But I got in, the war begins Monday. The Elysium stockroom smelled of fabric, sizing, and despair. Lara spent her first week cataloging bolts of imported silk and hand-beaded lace, each worth more than her monthly rent. She worked methodically, memorizing every material, noting which designers requested what and why. Information was power, and she was collecting it silently. By her second week, Victoria had apparently forgotten her existence. But Alison Parker, now Elysium's rising star designer, made a point of remembering. Chen, we need 3 yards of the Venetian lace. Now, Alison would snap her fingers, not bothering to make eye contact. Lara would deliver the materials without comment, taking mental notes on the designs in progress. Alison's work was technically proficient but soulless, proof that stealing creativity didn't mean you possessed it. As New York Fashion Week approached, the Elysium offices transformed into a high-pressure battlefield. Lara worked 18-hour days, invisible but observant as she delivered fabrics, cleaned up design rooms, and occasionally offered technical suggestions that were implemented but never credited. The night before Elysium's big show, disaster struck. The hand-beaded finale gown, Victoria's personal design for supermodel Alessandra Ray, ripped along a crucial seam as Alessandra was practicing her walk. "This is fucking cashmere, not cotton," Victoria screamed at the trembling seamstress. "It can't handle that kind of tension at the hip." The entire atelier stood frozen as Victoria threatened to fire everyone. The show was in 14 hours. The dress represented the culmination of the collection, a $50,000 masterpiece meant to cement Elysium's position at the forefront of American haute couture. "We need to reinforce it with an inner structure," Lara said quietly from the corner where she'd been collecting fabric scraps. The room fell silent. Victoria turned slowly, her face a mask of fury. "Excuse me, stockroom girl, did someone ask for your input?" Lara stood her ground. The problem isn't the seamstress, it's the architectural support. The weight of the beading is pulling against the natural bias of the fabric. If you create an invisible inner structure using silk organza cut on the straight grain, it will hold. Victoria's eyes narrowed. And I suppose you learned this revolutionary technique in your community college design course. Actually, Lara replied calmly, I learned it from Yoji Yamamoto during a master class at Parsons. The mention of the legendary designer's name caused a ripple through the room. Victoria's mouth tightened into a thin line. Fine, she snapped after a tense pause. Fix it. If you ruin my gown, you're not just fired, you're blacklisted from every fashion house in New York. Lara worked through the night, her fingers flying across the delicate material as she reconstructed the inner support of the gown. By dawn, it was finished, stronger, more elegant, the beading now catching the light at precisely the right angles as the fabric moved. Victoria inspected it silently, her face unreadable. Adequate, she finally pronounced before turning to her assistant. Make sure the stockroom girl is seated in the back for the show, as a reward. The Lincoln Center venue buzzed with the fashion elite as Lara took her assigned seat in the very last row, behind a column. She smoothed down her simple black dress, the nicest thing she owned, and observed the room. Critics, celebrities, influencers, all air-kissing and pretending to admire each other's outfits. As the lights dimmed, Lara spotted May entering with a group of Japanese buyers. Their eyes met briefly before May quickly looked away, a flicker of something, guilt, fear, crossing her face. The show proceeded flawlessly. Victoria's collection received appropriate applause, Allison's designs drew appreciative murmurs, and when Alessandra appeared in the finale gown, the room erupted in genuine approval. The dress moved like liquid starlight, exactly as Lara had ensured it would. After the final walk, Victoria took her bow alongside Allison. As the applause continued, Victoria raised her hand for silence. Before we conclude, I want to acknowledge the hands that brought this collection to life, she announced, her voice amplified through the venue. My brilliant team of designers, seamstresses, and of course, she paused dramatically, our newest team member who saved our finale piece just hours ago. Lara sat up straighter, a small flame of hope kindling in her chest. Allison Parker, who stepped in when our regular team faltered, proving once again that true talent runs in the family. The audience applauded as Allison stepped forward, basking in the praise for work she hadn't done. Lara sat frozen, the betrayal fresh and raw. As the crowd began to disperse, she overheard two editors whispering while looking in her direction. That's her, the stockroom girl who thought she was a designer. Victoria told me she tried to take credit for Allison's work on the finale dress. Typical, these wannabes will do anything to break in. I heard she got hired because of some diversity initiative. Lara's face burned as she realized Victoria had done more than steal her solution. She'd proactively discredited her, painting her as both incompetent and dishonest to the entire industry. As she stood to leave, she found herself face to face with Victoria and Allison, surrounded by photographers and journalists. "Oh, Lara," Victoria said loudly, her smile vicious. "We were just discussing your contribution today. Running back and forth with fabric swatches must be exhausting." The surrounding crowd tittered. "Especially in those shoes," Allison added, glancing dismissively at Lara's modest heels. "Are those from Target's fall collection?" The laughter grew louder. Flashes popped as photographers captured Lara's humiliation. "Actually," Lara began, struggling to keep her voice steady. "Actually," Victoria cut her off, "we need to discuss your future at Elysium. This morning's overstepping was unacceptable. Perhaps the stockroom is too prestigious a placement for someone of your background." More laughter, more flashes. Fashion blogs would run the story tomorrow. Ambitious intern Humiliated Elysium show. Lara stood tall despite the tears threatening to spill. "Thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Harlow. I've learned exactly what I needed to about how Elysium operates." She turned to leave, but Victoria's voice stopped her. "Oh, and Lara, the fashion world is smaller than you think. I'd consider a different career path if I were you." As Lara walked away, head high despite the whispers and stares, she pulled out her phone and typed a simple message to her father. "I'm ready for your help now." 3 weeks after the fashion show disaster, Lara sat in a sleek conference room in the Goldman Sachs building, watching her father work. Li Wei-chen rarely visited New York, preferring to run his tech empire from Singapore, but when he did, the financial world took notice. The terms are simple, Li Wei told the room of investment bankers. Global Quantum Technologies will establish a $200 million luxury fashion investment fund. We're looking to acquire controlling interest in a major fashion house as our first move. The bankers leaned forward eagerly. Lara observed silently from the corner, dressed in an impeccable Armani suit, a gift from her father that felt like armor after weeks of fashion industry scorn. "Which house are you targeting, Mr. Chen?" asked a silver-haired partner. Li Wei smiled, a rare expression on his usually stoic face. "That decision rests with our newly appointed creative investment director." He gestured toward Lara, "My daughter." The room's attention shifted to her, expressions transforming from dismissal to keen interest. Lara had seen this reaction countless times, people reassessing her worth upon discovering her lineage. "Ms. Chen has intimate knowledge of the industry," Li Wei continued. "Her recommendations will guide our acquisitions." After the meeting, as their town car glided through Manhattan traffic, Lara studied the dossier their financial team had prepared on Elysium Fashion House. "Their stock is already responding to rumors of our fund," she noted, "up 12% since the announcement." Li Wei nodded. "Victoria Harlow owns 30% of the company. The rest is split between private equity and minor shareholders." "And Harlow would never sell to us directly," Lara mused. "Not to me, at least." "That's why we start with the private equity shares," her father replied, "quietly through shell companies." Lara closed the folder. "Dad, I need to do this my way. Yes, I want revenge, but I also want to prove something about my designs, my vision." Li Wei studied his daughter's face. "What do you need?" "Time and a platform." 2 days later, Lara stood in the soaring atrium of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, watching Victoria Harlow hold court at the annual Costume Institute donor dinner. The exclusive event brought together fashion's elite with their wealthy patrons, the symbiotic relationship that kept the industry afloat. Victoria hadn't noticed Lara yet. She was too busy charming a Saudi princess, likely angling for a custom commission. "Ready," whispered Riley, now employed as Lara's assistant but still her most trusted friend. Lara nodded. The museum director tapped her glass for attention. "Before dinner, I'd like to announce an extraordinary new endowment. The Chen Family Foundation has pledged $50 million to establish a permanent Asian influence in fashion exhibition." A wave of murmurs swept through the crowd. 50 million was unprecedented, almost triple the previous largest donation. "We're honored to have Mr. Li Wei-chen and his daughter Lara Chen with us tonight." All eyes turned to where Lara stood beside her father. She watched with grim satisfaction as Victoria's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips, recognition and shock transforming her features. After the announcement, it took precisely 12 minutes for Victoria to make her way to Lara's side. "Lara, darling," Victoria gushed, air-kissing near her cheek. "What a surprise. I had no idea you were connected to the Chen family." "Funny," Lara replied coolly. "I had no idea Allison could reconstruct a couture gown's internal structure, considering she couldn't tell organza from organdy during my time at Elysium." Victoria's smile tightened. A misunderstanding, clearly, in the rush of Fashion Week. "In the rush of Fashion Week," Lara interrupted, "you publicly humiliated the daughter of one of the world's wealthiest men and stole her work. Again." Victoria's face drained of color. "Again. 5 years ago, the Miek Prize, Meizhang, my stolen collection." Recognition dawned in Victoria's eyes, followed quickly by calculation. "Lara, I had no idea." "Ms. Chen," corrected Li Wei, joining them. "I believe that's how employees address their employers." Victoria blinked. "I'm sorry." Lara extracted a business card from her clutch and handed it to Victoria. "Global Quantum Technologies now owns 22% of Elysium Fashion House. By next week, we'll have controlling interest." Victoria's perfectly manicured hand trembled as she took the card. "This is absurd. The board would never." "The board," interjected Li Wei, "has already scheduled an emergency meeting for Monday morning. My acquisition team is very efficient." Around them, other guests were beginning to notice the tense conversation. Phones appeared, surreptitiously recording. Fashion's most reliable currency, gossip, was already being traded. "What do you want?" Victoria finally asked, her voice barely audible. Lara smiled. "I want you to introduce me to everyone here tonight as the rightful winner of the Miek Prize. I want you to explain how you and May stole my designs, and then I want you to publicly apologize for the treatment I received at your company." Victoria's face contorted with fury. "Never. I'd rather burn Elysium to the ground." "That can be arranged too," said Li Wei mildly, "though I think the shareholders might object." As if on cue, Riley appeared with a tablet. "Ms. Chen, the financial team has secured another 8% from the Frankfurt Group. Documents ready for your signature." Victoria looked from father to daughter, calculation replacing shock. "Let's discuss this privately." "No," Lara replied. "Everything happens right here, right now. The fashion world runs on public perception, doesn't it? That's what you taught me." Victoria's eyes darted around the room, noting the influential witnesses, the recording phones, the career-ending moment unfolding in real time. "You're making a mistake," she hissed. "This industry will never accept." "This industry," Lara cut in, "will accept whatever the money tells it to accept. That's what you taught me too." The museum director approached, sensing tension. "Is everything all right here?" Lara raised an eyebrow at Victoria, the challenge clear. After a long, taut moment, Victoria's shoulders slumped almost imperceptibly. Then she turned to the director with a brittle smile. "Actually, I was just about to make an announcement, something I should have done years ago." The following morning, Women's Wear Daily's headline screamed, "Fashion Scandal. HARLOW admits to design theft. CHEN heiress REVALS industry corruption." Beneath it was a photo of Victoria Harlow looking shaken as she addressed the stunned audience at the Met Gala, with Lara standing regally in the background. The article detailed Victoria's confession about the stolen Miek Prize designs and the systematic suppression of Lara's career. By noon, every fashion blog and industry publication had picked up the story. Victoria's publicist released a statement calling her confession coerced and denying any wrongdoing. Elysium's stock plummeted 15% in morning trading. Lara sat in the conference room of her father's Manhattan office, watching the fallout on multiple screens. Riley managed their social media response while a team of lawyers finalized the paperwork for the hostile takeover. "Victoria's pushing back," Riley noted, scrolling through her phone. "Says she has proof that your Miek designs were actually developed in-house at Elysium months before you claimed to have created them." Lara smiled. "I was hoping she'd try that." She opened her laptop and pulled up a file labeled Insurance. Inside were hundreds of dated, time-stamped photos documenting every step of her original collection's development. More damning were the emails she'd exchanged with Mei Zhang discussing specific technical innovations, emails that predated Allison's original designs by months. "Send these to the legal team," she told Riley, "and this." She pulled out a thumb drive containing her most powerful evidence, security camera footage from her old apartment building showing Mei Zhang entering the night of the break-in, then leaving hours later with a large portfolio case. "How did you get this?" Riley asked wide-eyed. "I didn't," Lara replied. "My father did. He never believed it was a random burglary. He had his security team pull the footage the day after it happened." "And you've been sitting on this for 5 years?" Lara shrugged. "I wanted to succeed on my own terms first. Revenge without achievement felt empty." By mid-afternoon, the story had evolved. Fashion news